Welcome back to the kitchen, guys. Today we're bringing you a breakfast classic, that perfect stack of fluffy pancakes that everyone looks forward to on a Saturday morning. We're not getting crazy. We're not gonna make you go to the store. It's all simple ingredients, but we're gonna show you how to dial them in just right. And to take it up a notch, although these go great with maple syrup, if that's what you want, I'm also gonna show you how to make my classic coffee, orange, and peanut butter syrup. It's so sweet and decadent and delicious, and it goes great with pancakes. How to do it? Coming right up. Funny story about the provenance of this syrup. This happened one morning when I made myself pancakes, and then I went to put my maple syrup on and realized I was all out and I didn't know what to do. I wanted to eat my pancakes. So being a resourceful cook, I took some leftover coffee, I threw some orange zest in, I put some sugar in, I reduced it down to a syrup, and then I whisked in some peanut butter, and it came out so good that I've been making it ever since. That was probably 12 years ago, and I still make this syrup to this day because I like it so much. The only difference from the original, I now add a little bit of maple syrup because I have it around, and maple syrup is great on pancakes. But you can make this without maple syrup. You just double the sugar and you'll have my original. Let's get to it. Start out by getting our coffee into our pot. Get that heated up. We'll start it reducing. You know, you wouldn't think that coffee makes a good syrup, or you might not think it, but there's something about when you reduce it down with some sugar and it's sweet, but there's the little bit of bitterness in the background that just makes this really balanced, delicious, grown-up kind of syrup. And like I said, you can use maple syrup on these pancakes if you want, but I definitely suggest giving this a try. So we have some regular white sugar, which was in the original. I'm adding a little maple syrup to this because I just like the flavor. And then we're starting with a touch of salt, just brings out all the other flavors. We're gonna bring this up to a boil. We're gonna reduce it down by about 2/3 until it gets thick and syrupy. About 15 minutes to reduce. We're gonna add our zest in the last 5 minutes because we don't want to cook off all that freshness, and then we will add the peanut butter off the heat. While this is reducing down, I'm gonna gather up my ingredients for our pancakes so everything can be lickety split. We don't want to take all day to make our breakfast. We're gonna get it done. We are down to our last 5 minutes. You might be able to see it's getting a little bit thicker right now. You're not gonna be able to see a syrup consistency yet, but we are gonna add our orange zest. We're going to use a peeler to zest it this way. That way we can pull the peels out. We don't have to strain it or anything like that. It just makes it easier. When you're taking these peels off, make sure you don't use too much downward pressure because you want to avoid taking any white with the zest. You want to try to get as much just orange as you can. Let's see if we can get a good shot of this. You can see I just have the tiniest bit of white on there. It's mostly orange. The pith, the white, is bitter, so we want just the orange part going into our final syrup. We're going to do the whole orange. So our zest is in. Make sure we don't simmer too hard. We don't want to, like I said, we don't want to cook out the freshness of the zest. We just want that orangey flavor to permeate our syrup. We can see that our syrup is beginning to get a little bit thicker. We're not there yet. The bubbles change texture. They get like smaller and faster as it becomes more syrupy, but we're not going to take this all the way down to being a complete syrup like if it was maple syrup, because we're going to add peanut butter at the end, and that has a lot of thickening power. So we don't want to over thicken our syrup. We get it down to it's a little bit syrupy, then we get our peanut butter in and we check our consistency. And we are about there. I'm going to kill my heat. See if we can get a visual. Now, if this was a full syrup, as I dragged my spatula, you would see a trail, but we're not quite there. We're just, let me grab a spoon. We are just at the point where it's starting to get a little bit like hot honey thick, and that is what we want. Not full syrup yet. I'm gonna remove my orange peel. That zest has done its job. It's released its orange oil into our syrup. I can smell it in the air. It smells great already, and we're not even done. I'm gonna add in my peanut butter off the heat because we have enough residual heat to melt it. Just stir it, get it melting, and then we'll move to the whisk to emulsify it through. Just a touch of unmelted peanut butter. I'm gonna give it a little more heat. This is looking gorgeous. Take a look at that trail now. Now you can see when I drag my spoon or my spatula, we have a little bit of a trail showing on the bottom of the pan. That's a nice syrupy consistency. Check it with a spoon. just like hot maple syrup. That's the texture you want. Now, if you get to this point, you've put in your peanut butter and you're like, oh, I maybe added the peanut butter a little early, it's still a little thin, just turn your heat back up, reduce it down to the thickness that you want, and you'll be ready to go. That is so good. It tastes like a candy bar, guys. I can't wait to get it on my pancakes. Let's get to the pancakes. The perfect pancake batter can be elusive. You want it to be a little bit sweet, a little bit buttery, and have a nice, fluffy loft. I think we've got this one dialed in exactly, and what I love about it is how simple it is. We don't need to do any sort of yeasted rise. We're gonna do a quick leaven using baking powder. It's instant, no worries. Another thing is, I eschew sour ingredients like buttermilk or doing sourdough pancakes. The problem is that acids inhibit browning. Browning gives us Maillard reactions, which gives us a lot of flavor. So if you're inhibiting browning, you're inhibiting flavor. Now, some folks would say, yeah, but those buttermilk or sourdough, that's bringing extra flavor. I don't think the flavor it brings is worth what it takes away. So I eschew all acids, and that's awesome because this makes it one of the easiest pancake batters you can do, but I think it's the perfect pancake. You could probably eat these things without syrup and still love them. Let's get started. Simple all-purpose flour going into our bowl. We always mix our dry ingredients first so everything's even. Some sugar, some salt, and some baking powder. Give it a little stir. Everything's evenly mixed together. The reason you do that ahead of time is you want minimal stirring once you get your wet ingredients in, because you don't want to develop your proteins. You want to keep your pancakes nice and tender. Liquids separate. We have some half and half here. You can use milk for this recipe. I prefer the richness of the half and half. Just know that if you do use milk, you may need to use a little bit less to get the right consistency because it's thinner. But I like to start with half and half. I have some melted butter, and I'm gonna add it in while stirring. Because that half and half is cold, I'm not gonna bother to warm it up. And when that liquid butter hits it, it will solidify. But if I'm stirring, it solidifies in tiny droplets that will disperse evenly throughout the pancakes. Little tip there. Some vanilla, always great in a cake. A pancake is a cake after all. I do 1 whole egg and 1 egg yolk. The whole egg helps bring some protein and hold everything together. Then the egg yolk is gonna give us richness and deep brown color without making our pancakes taste overly eggy. Yolk goes in, give it a whisk. Now that everything is mixed up separate, we can put them together and we'll have minimal stirring so we don't make our pancakes tough. You can leave it with a few small lumps. It's better to understir. Those lumps will spread out as they cook. No big lumps, you know, you get all your flour moist, but if there's some little ones through there, don't whisk like crazy trying to get them out. They'll be just fine. And that's all there is to it. Perfect batter is ready. We're gonna bring in our burner, cook off some pancakes. We got our syrup. It takes hardly any time at all, and you're gonna have the best pancakes you've ever had for breakfast. Transferred my batter to something pourable. It just makes things easier. I like to do my pancakes in an 8-inch non-stick pan, one at a time. I just think they come out the best that way. Now granted, this only makes 4 pancakes, so it's easy to do. If you're gonna like double this recipe and you're serving a lot of people, you might need to use a larger pan or a big griddle if you have one, so you can do multiple at the same time. But I'm gonna do 4, one at a time. I think they come out the best when you do them like that. I've got my 8-inch non-stick. I'm gonna start by spraying it a little bit, but one of the kind of restaurant tricks is after you spray your pan, you wipe it out with paper towels. Thoroughly. Flip that paper towel over. Try to get all of it out. It's like you're trying to remove it after you've sprayed it, so that you only have the thinnest possible layer of spray on there. It'll keep things from sticking, but it will allow them to brown evenly. Now, there is, for some reason, I don't know, a goblin in every pancake where the first one doesn't come out looking good. In restaurants, we usually either throw the first one away or we give it to one of the cooks to eat, but just put it on the bottom of the stack where people won't see it. For some reason, that pan needs to be seasoned with batter one time before you get that perfectly brown pancake. So put that first one on the bottom of your stack. Let's preheat our pan. About medium heat is what we want. I know most people don't have one. You've probably seen me use this before if you watch this show. I love this little laser thermometer because it gives me the temperature of the surface of things. So I can check the temperature of my pan, especially good when you're doing pancakes. I find at about 350 to 375 is the best place to start. And if you know exactly where you're at, then you can make a perfect pancake every time. Of course, if you don't have one of these at home, just preheat it for a minute or two over medium heat and you'll be ready to go. 360, that looks perfect to me. Like I said, 4 pancakes, that's about a half cup batter per. You're just gonna wanna coat the bottom of the pan. Give it a pour, about a half cup, let it spread on its own. Tilt the pan a little bit just to get your pancake perfectly round, but mostly just let it sit. It takes about 3 minutes for the first side and about 1.5 minutes for the second side. You're gonna watch, the bubbles are gonna start to form from that heat, causing the leavening agent to act. Bubbles will start to form. At first, they'll pop and more batter will just fill them in. As they get to the point where they're starting to set, they'll pop and you'll see that empty space stay there. When you start to see bubbles doing that, that usually means you're good enough to turn. That's when I check it, make sure I'm brown underneath, and then I give it a flip. It's even a good idea to turn your pan every so often. Stoves never heat everything evenly, so you turn your pan, get even heating. I am seeing a few bubbles closer to the center popping, not filling in too much. I'm gonna check for brownness. Yep, that is exactly what I like. Just get your spatula under there. Don't be afraid, pick it up, give it a flip. Beautiful looking pancake. Actually, that's one of the prettier first pancakes I've ever done. Usually they don't come out that nice on the first one. I actually like to use one of these silicone spats to flip my pancakes. I just think they work better than the metal ones. You can get under there and really get the whole thing, let it come up on the handle a little bit, and then flip it right over. Don't be afraid to give it a little turn for even cooking. Feel the center. If it feels like it's bouncing back and there's no liquidy in the center, you are done. Pancake comes out onto a plate. Let's go with another. You don't have to put any butter or spray on in between. That first spray is all you need. Go right in with your next set of batter. If you want to be naughty, you can put a little butter between each pancake. Let that melt in. It's going to be so good. Ooh, that is a tall drink of water. Now technically, it's 2 pancakes per serving, but I just love to see that tall stack of pancakes. Put a little last dab of butter, let that start melting in. We're gonna get our hot syrup on these, and I cannot wait to try them. The time has arrived, guys. I have got quite the tall stack here. Like I said, it's 2 pancakes per serving, but I'm just gonna dress these all up at once and give them a taste. I'll share them with my wife afterwards. Let's see this syrup consistency we got. Oh yeah, that is perfection. Let it drizzle all around. You got a lot of pancakes there. Gotta dress them. Now that is a perfect stack of pancakes. That syrup with the coffee, it looks like a chocolate syrup, but the coffee, the peanut butter, I can't wait to get into it. Let's give it a try. So good. So good. Forget about it. Forget about it. That's syrup. First of all, that's syrup. You got the sweetness from the maple. You got the richness from the peanut butter, and that peanuttiness goes so well with pancakes. And then that little bit of backbone of just a bit of bitterness and that coffee flavor coming through with that pop of orange zest just filling your nose up. I mean, it's the perfect accompaniment to pancakes. Get a look at that cross section. We're talking fluffy, beautifully browned. Don't go with the buttermilk. Don't go with the sourdough. That acid inhibits that browning, and that browning is flavor, and that flavor is just killer. A few simple ingredients, mostly things you would have around the house. They come together really fast, but they will wow people. They will wow your family. You're gonna feel like you're eating at your favorite diner. So gorgeous. I can't wait to share them with my wife. She is sitting over there and she looks excited. I know she loves these pancakes. She loves this syrup. Like I said, you can pair it with maple syrup if you want, if that's your thing. But I do recommend you try this syrup for something different. It is awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed our first breakfast episode, and if you did, please remember to like and subscribe so we can keep the channel going, and we will see you next time on Bobby's Kitchen.